Yeah, so I think it's important for people to understand both the mind control and how they manipulate events. There was a Illuminati kingpin, and he said that the whole world's a stage. What we're seeing on the news is just staged events. And, you know, they're manipulating things in the Middle East. They're manipulating things here and there. And it's all being manipulated for a grand design. And I think that's important for people to understand, that these things aren't happening randomly. And one way that they can, one thing that helps people to understand the extent of the control is to begin to understand their totally undetectable total mind control.
Now, Fritz, looking at mind control, obviously the public is starting to wake up. There's a big awakening happening. Have the globalists foreseen this? Are the globalists happy about what's happening? How is their plan moving forward right now? And what would they like to set up? If they could have their druthers, what would the world look like?
Okay, several questions there. One is I was hoping when I exposed the Illuminati's total mind control with 3 books, and within those books were about 40 pages of the actual codes. And as you go on television and other places, even sitting in some of these churches, like what you were talking about the other night, these apostate churches, you're going to hear these code words said repeatedly. And I had hoped that, you know, exposing it all would mean that they would have to change their agenda, you know, sort of retool all of their codes and everything. Hasn't happened. They just kept on trucking. It was like that goes back to what we were talking about the other night, how they really don't think we're going to make any effect. Because they just kept on trucking. They didn't change their programming scripts. They didn't change their codes. They just kept on. It's been a surprise to me. As to what we see coming down the pike, well, one of the things, like I said, and you can get a picture of this in the novel Brave New World, is where they're going to control reproduction, and they're going to be, the state is going to be manufacturing people. They're going to reduce the population. And you might wonder why they could be so heartless as to wipe out most of us. Because these people don't perceive us as any different than an ant. You know, Alex, if you were walking on the street and you stepped on an ant or 10 ants, it wouldn't even cross your mind. And that's, you know, people that have been associated up at the top have said that that's their attitude. And indeed, you look at history and it's the truth. For 100 or 1,000 of us to die means no more to them than if they stepped on an ant. And so we're going to see drastic population reduction. And the United States, as a political entity, has been committed by law to encourage other countries to reduce their population. Now, I'm sure you're familiar with all of this. And you're
sure, State Department Memorandum 200 and others.
Exactly. You know, we see this, we see the big boys, Rockefellers, Rothschilds, and their companies and industry polluting, and then they come along and set themselves up as if they're these great environmentalists. And you talked about that the other night when we were talking about these false environmentalists. And so we're going to continue to see this mock war to protect the environment. That's going to continue because they're able to manipulate so much. It's important to them to continue having several of these wars going on, the drug war, the war on pollution and so forth, because it gives them the right to come in and manipulate and control our lives. One of the things that they love to do is get us to ask them to do what they want to do. Most amazing, and I've sat here and watched over the last 20 years, it works. They begin a program, it's a step-by-step thing, and before you know it, the common people are begging them to do what they had in mind to do from the very beginning.
So that's the problem, reaction, solution.
Yeah, it all ties together, exactly. So, just, people are wondering why would they bring in a one world religion, just another control thing, get rid of those that have a conscience, and use religion as a way of manipulation. You can already see this. You can already see the mainline denominations oftentimes use religion, other religions do it too, as a form of power and manipulation. And they'll just continue the process.
How are things, as I mentioned earlier, how are things going for the Illuminati right now?
In general, pretty good. They had a slight problem here a few years ago that they're now going to rectify with part of their plan. Their plan's going to fit in. Is going to help them very comfortably manage it. The problem that arose was that you had a lot of new wealth, and that kind of situation happens whenever you have new frontiers. Like in the gold rush days or in the railroad days. Well, with the computers, we've had new wealth come in. And the new wealth is committed to the system. They're people that are part of the system, They may be assets of the CIA or NSA or whatnot or other things. But they're not as directly controlled by the Illuminati as their own members, even though these people are pro-system and they're not trying to butt the system. What we have is what's called a rubber band effect. When something is ordered or something is wanted by the Illuminati, it doesn't get done because we have thousands of very wealthy people that are not Illuminati, and they have a mind of their own. So when the system says we need to do this, we need to do that, the reaction doesn't go like they want it.
That's why they want to get rid of the middle class. That's why they want to centralize control. That's why they want total government surveillance, because they want instant robotic submission.
Right. That's why they're going to take the American dollar down, because the new wealth has their money in American dollars, where the old wealth, like the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, DuPonts, they have had time over the years to build up the foundations, the tax-exempt foundations, to put their money into land, to diversify to a point around the world that if they collapse the American dollar, they're still going to have their power when it's all said and done.
So again, I don't want to interrupt you. Go back. So they're waging war against their own nouveau riche, against their own new rich.
Right. Exactly. And so we're going to see those thousands of new rich people taken down and humbled. You could use that word. They're going to be humbled. And it's part of a solidification of power by the Illuminati. They're wanting to take the American dollar down anyway because they're wanting to break America. Americans have too much freedom. We have too much mobility, and we have too much wealth. And all that translates into Americans are able to make decisions for themselves. They're able to travel places on their own. And this is just unacceptable. It's
hold on. You just hit the nail at the core. The TSA, the federal police force, it's all about domestic checkpoints, training the general law-abiding public that you're a criminal, we're putting our hands on you, we're searching you, no more Fourth Amendment. But it's always been the ultra-rich waging war on the middle class who are independent and don't want to be slaves. So you're absolutely hitting the core here, Fritz. My mission, I think, is to reach the middle class and to tell them, hey, organize against this. I mean, do you see any hope in resisting these people?
Well, you're directing your message to a good class of people. What a lot of people don't realize is if you go back and study history, revolutions came out of the middle class.
Yeah.
People that are in a survival mode, they're not thinking about fighting. They're thinking about where their next meal is going to come from. The American Revolution was created by a middle class. That was the leadership was upper and middle class, and so you're making a very wise decision there in trying to target people that have the means and a little bit of free time to actually constructively do something.
Yeah, no, that's who I've always felt called to go to people, because I think of nothing of myself. I know there are people who are greater men than I. They need to stand up, I mean, not be run over. And if I can break them out of their trance and point this out, they will become engines against this tyranny. And because I historically see the programmers, the globalists, the social engineers, we call the Illuminati, are always waging war against that independent free class because that's their threat.
Right. And don't discount anybody anywhere. I mean, you know.
No, I'm not discounting anybody. There's native talent everywhere. I just see the elite waging war on the middle class. Why is that?
They want to eliminate the middle class. That the middle class is targeted for extinction. There's certain groups that seem to be, not seem, they just flat are targeted for elimination. The middle class is targeted for elimination. The blacks in Africa are targeted for elimination in Central Africa. The multinational corporations would like to have a lot more control and free reign in Central Africa, which has a lot of wealth.
By the way, it came out in Uganda a month ago, even in the New York Times, and in Honduras, the UN and World Bank line people up and just shoot them, and the liberals are like, it's for the earth, murder everyone. I mean, there's almost like a craziness now where things before that would be scandalous, that would have been incredible, are now just, no big deal.
You're right. I was listening as I was